I've never seen so many Eagles fans as I have now because I think it's a whole lot of people cheering against Tom Brady. But those of you that are Patriots fans, praise the Lord. God will bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you, all that stuff, but not tonight. I pray that tonight Tom Brady has the worst game of his career. I pray that every player on the Patriots gets the flu. I pray that the Eagles block every kick. I pray that they intercept the ball 16 times. I pray that they don't even want to get on the plane back to New England. And all things will be right in the world. Praise the Lord. Nonetheless, let's dive in to this series. I figure this is going to be a fun series. We're calling it Swipe Rightus, based off of a book that an acquaintance of mine wrote. And I'm really excited about the content. I think it's going to be a lot of fun because here's the deal. And I need to tell you, those of you that if you brought in like little kids, it's all good. Just know, we always have people say, are you going to talk about that from the stage? Because I got this 14-year-old and he's never heard that before. I'm like, come on now. You know what I'm talking about? Like if they're 14, you're 7 years too late, my friends. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into a great series, some great stuff for you, regardless of kind of where you are in your life, whether you're dating, whether you wish you were dating, whether you never want to date again because you hate everybody you just hate people at this point in your life. I've seen that before too. Those of you maybe that are newly married, those of you that have been married for years, those of you that used to be married but you're not married, those of you that used to be married and you're not married and you want to get remarried, or those of you that were married and now you're not married and you'd rather die than be married again. No matter who you are, I think that this series is going to be helpful, and it doesn't matter if you're young, old, somewhere in between. We always have more to learn, right? Anytime you get to the point in life where you think you have arrived, it's a bad place to be. That's a bad place. It doesn't, I will say this. Did you know that a lot of times maturity does not come with experience, right? There's some old people that are not very mature. There's some old people that suck at relationships. And sometimes people get to the end of their life and their relationships survived. I don't necessarily think that's the goal. If I'm going to be married to somebody for a long dang time, I don't want to just survive marriage. I want it to be awesome. When my kids leave the house, I want to be pumped up. You know what I mean? Because now I got even more freedom than I did before. And date night is not once a week. Date night is every night. And I think that can be the case. You just got to learn that your kids are not your God, and that the most important relationship in your kids' life is not you and them. It's you and your spouse, if you are married. If you're not, we'll talk about that too. And I think this is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun series. And ultimately, here's the goal. I want you to get to your future and like what you get when you get there. Right? Because, your future is going to come. One day your future will be in the present. And if you don't make a couple shifts now, you might not like what happens when you get to the place you want to be and the place that you're going to arrive. You might not like your destination. I think our goal today is to change that. But before we start, I want to say this. This is not a series designed to make you feel bad for your past. This is a from this day forward type series. Does that make sense? Say from this day forward. Because did you know you can't help something that happened 10 years ago? Matter of fact, we can't even help anything that happened 10 minutes ago. When I woke up today and saw that it was raining outside, I almost said 77 cuss words in a row. Because anytime it rains on a Sunday, that's exactly what I do. And I can't change the past, so I had to say, Lord, forgive me for my thoughts about the rain today, because maybe it will be raining upon your blessings upon the church, all that stuff that sounds good, but mostly I just hate the rain. But you can't change the past. You can't change it in the long, distant past, and you also can't change it just from a few moments ago, a few days ago, weeks ago, months ago, whatever. So this series and this day is all about from this day forward. That's the goal. I want to show you as we dive in, right? Because we're going to talk about all kind of stuff over the course of the series. Today is like baseline stuff, and then we're going to dive really deep into this over the course of the next 5 weeks. This is a 6-week series. And you just need to be here every single week. If you had plans, change them. It's that easy. Do whatever you got to do to change your plans, because this is going to be more important than the trip to Punta Cana. This is going to be way better than that. And so just make sure you're here. We're going to show you this in the Bible. I'm going to start off in a weird place when it comes to a relationship series. You will not be able to put two and two together right away, but it's all good. I'll help you get there. Exodus chapter 15, verse 22. They traveled in this desert for 3 days without finding any water. They traveled in the desert for 3 days without finding any water. When they came to the oasis of Marah, the water was too bitter to drink. So then the people complained and they turned against Moses. What are we going to drink? They demanded. Israel had just been let out of Egypt. They had been slaves for a whole lot of years. Now they had been set free. They go through the Red Sea, which was amazing, but it was one of the saltiest, not the, but one of the saltiest bodies of water on the planet. Therefore, it's not like you can bend over and drink any of it. So they walk through that, and then now they've been in the desert for 3 days with nothing to drink. They see water. They see this town, and they're like, there's water. That's amazing. They get there, and the water was undrinkable, so it didn't help anybody. By this point, some of the people were saying we should probably go back. We should probably go back to Egypt, because at least there we had food. At least there we had water. We are surrounded by water with nothing to drink. Wouldn't it be terrible? I think the worst place to die of dehydration would be like on a little life raft in the middle of the ocean. I can't think of anything worse than that, because I've seen stories about it and watched movies about people that are in the middle of the ocean and they're waiting on people to rescue them, and the sun's beating down on your face, and before long you start getting delusional. You see the salt water and you start to drink it, and it actually is okay at first, but it starts to dehydrate you even more. It makes you even more crazy. The worst place to die of dehydration would definitely be whenever it is that you are surrounded by water. Now, in their case, that's exactly what was happening. They get to Marah, which means bitter, and when they get to this city, this place, this land, this reservoir, if you will, the water wasn't drinkable. And to be honest, it's kind of a great analogy for our topic today, because sometimes this is true in your life. You've seen it if you've been around for any number of years, but sexuality is everywhere and options are pretty abundant. I was thinking about this in the context of phones. I saw this statistic that came across my desk the other week, and it said that those of you that have smartphones, which is everybody probably, unless you're just refusing to be a person who is, smart. And so you have a phone. I was trying to think of a nicer way to say it. Or you just hate technology and you have a flip phone, and praise the Lord, there you go. Did you know the average person checks their phone 150 times a day? 150. And when I heard that, you know what's crazy about that? It didn't even surprise me. Like, I was thinking, that's all? Like 150 times. That's once every 6 minutes. And you got to remember, that's 150 times while you're awake, because most people don't check their phones that much while they're sleeping. So 150 times every 6 minutes, that includes while you're sleeping, even though you didn't do any of it when you're sleeping. So all those times that you check it are happening in an even smaller little window of time. Now, what's happened is, have you ever, I want to see Ackworth, Kennesaw. I forgot to welcome both campuses, so welcome to both campuses. I was thinking about this. How many of you, I need you to be honest, how many of you have ever not had your phone on you, but you have felt it vibrate? Raise your hand if you've ever done that. That's most of you. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. I'll be, I got a call. I don't even got my phone. My phone's sitting over there, but I felt it ring. Like I felt it. It's an interesting scenario. It's a random vibration sensation. They've got a name for that. That's not even my name for it. That's the name for it. Like, I don't know what it's on, if it's in the internet, and you know how it is. Everything on the internet is true. But apparently Apparently, that's a thing. And the reason that that is a thing is because every time you get a notification on your phone, you don't know this is happening, but there's like a little shot of dopamine that gets sent into your brain and you like it. And as a result, if you haven't received a notification in a little bit, your brain will create a new notification, even though no notification has even happened. And it will cause you to think that one has happened so that you will grab your phone and look at it because your brain likes the dopamine. That is crazy. I mean, your phone is a drug in essence. It's bizarre. Now, I didn't do any dating during this season of time. Let me rephrase that. I go on a date every week because I think it's actually more important to date once you get married than it is before you get married, by the way. But that's a whole nother week in this series. So those of you that haven't been on dates in a while, that's what I'm saying. Make sure you're here every single week because I'm going to help you out. But I was not like in a season of dating where I'm looking for the person that I'm going to call my wife whenever online dating was a thing, right? There was no farmersonly.com whenever I was 16. You know, you don't have to be lonely at farmersonly.com. Like there was no farmersonly.com in a commercial with some girl on a tractor. You know, that was never a thing, farmersonly.com. I didn't have to worry about no OkCupid. I didn't have to worry about Tinder. I didn't have to worry about none of that stuff. But the reality is, it's crazy because cell phones and technology and everything else, it's changed everything for us. Like it used to be, this is some of you that you're younger, you're going to be blown away. You used to find a date by finding somebody that, you know, of course, they are attractive to you, but then you find out a little bit about their character and you find out whether they love Jesus, you find out if they're good people, you know, all that stuff. And you're like, okay, this is somebody that I could see myself with for a little bit, so I'm gonna pursue them. Now, you just pull up an app on your phone and you get a picture of their face and you gotta decide, literally on Tinder, you gotta answer the question, are they hot or not? And if they're not hot, you swipe left. And if they are hot, you swipe right. And that's all you know. That's it. So your whole experience is, woo, that girl is amazing. Swipe right. And then you pray to God when she sees your picture, she swipes right, and then it alerts you. You both swiped right. And as a result, you are a match made in heaven. She does not even have to be a farmer because this is not farmersonly.com. This is Tinder. And she is hot. And you are hot. And now the two of you are together even though you don't even know nothing about each other. Did you know that people use Tinder? I saw this because a bunch of people in some of the cities, they want to get together, but they don't want the long-term relationship. So they're just using it kind of like a hookup app, right? And so you can get together, go be with somebody for 24 hours. No, you don't need no 24 hours. You can go be with somebody for 4 minutes. And then after that, everything's, you know, you can go back to swiping. Swipe left, swipe right, do your thing, whatever it is you got to do. You know what I'm talking about? Say yes. Yes. And you don't know nothing about their character. You don't know nothing about nothing. All you know is the superficial thing. Now, here's the thing. I'm not the guy. I'm not the pastor guy that's like, we got to reject technology. We got to stop swiping. Don't be getting on the farmersonly.com. You got to go. I'm not that guy. And the reason I'm not is because that's stupid. And the reason it's stupid is because how is it? Jesus did, by the way, tell us to reach the world, right? Hold on, that's an easy one. That was a layup. That was a layup. That's what the Eagles are going to do to the Patriots later on. And I know they don't do layups. It's like an easy touchdown. It's a Tom Brady gets sacked, fumbles in the end zone, and we get 6 points. It's that easy. But it's one of those things where I say some stuff, and when I read it on here, and when I let you know some of the things that are happening, here's the thing. When it comes to oh God, have you ever been so ADD that you just think of something so hilarious? I just thought about the fact that I'm talking about farmersonly.com, and I know people at our church that got married on farmersonly.com. That's true. Also, there used to be a game called Farmville. I've never played it, but that used to be a thing. I also know another family that got married on Farmville, but then they got divorced, so we don't have to talk about that. But nonetheless, it is what it is. I'm not suggesting we reject all that stuff. We don't need to reject technology. Jesus told us to change the world. And you know what I realized? You cannot change the world if you're hiding from it. I'm not telling you to hide from the world. I'm not telling you to reject the app. I'm not telling you don't ever do anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying even to stop swiping. I'm just telling you the goal of this series and the goal of the day is to learn what it means to swipe right. And what that means is, how can we swipe right and do what's right in God's sight so that we can live the life that God has for us to live? How do we do it? Whether you're dating, whether you're married, whether that's not even on your radar right now, you can file this away. Whatever the case may be, how is it that we are going to continue to move forward? Because here's what I need you to know. I need you to know that God has a plan for your life. Look to somebody to your left or right and say, God's got a plan for me. God's got a plan for me. He does. I just hope that you actually believe it. God's got a plan for you. And here's the other thing that'll blow your mind. God actually has answers for you when it comes to sexuality. Here's the part that blows people's mind. And I don't know why it blows people's mind, but I do a relationship series every year, and I say this one sentence every single year. And every single year when I say it, people look at me like I am insane, like I have been smoking crack or doing something else. I'm telling you, everybody looks at me weird. I need you to know that God is the one that designed sex in the first place. Some of y'all just need to let that sink in. Because you grew up in churches and you heard that sex was a necessary evil, and the only reason you should ever engage in such an activity is to make a child. And after that, you need to refrain, abstain. You need to do whatever you got to do until the next time it's time to make a baby. That's the only reason ever. And God does not want you to do it. He doesn't want you to have fun when you're doing it. Matter of fact, it's going to be terrible. Some of you were told that. God designed it. You do know that when God introduced Adam to his wife, he brought him a naked woman. God is God. He could have given that girl some clothes. She could have came walking in. She could have had on the best. But she did have on the best. Praise the Lord. Sex is not a necessary evil, but here's what you need to know about it. Sex isn't just pleasurable, it's powerful. It's powerful. Say it's powerful. It's powerful. Sex is powerful. That's why God tells us how to use it. I know that sounds weird, right? Because some of you, you're like, is this happening right now? Are we talking about this? Are we talking about this in church? Is this stuff really in the Bible? Yes. The answer is yes. And the reason that it is because God actually has a plan, and it's a plan to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope, plans to give you a future, plans for you to be able to enjoy a gift that has been given to you by God at a level you never even dreamed. But somewhere along the lines, you've been taught that God doesn't desire for you to enjoy his gift. Because you have associated rules or guardrails that come along with the topic as God's way of saying this is not supposed to be fun. Now, if I went to the store and I walk out, dang, this thing's heavy. If I walk out with a chainsaw, I told myself I'm not going to get too close to the front of the stage. I've been on a violent streak lately. Did you know that if I go to the store and I go to Home Depot or I go to Lowe's or I go to one of the mom and pop places in the area, if I go there and I buy me a chainsaw and I open it up and I pull out the instructions and it comes attached with the warning label, Do you think I get mad at Home Depot, or I get mad at Lowe's, or I get mad at Walmart, or I get mad at Amazon, or I get mad at whoever it is that sold me this daggum thing? Do you think I get mad at them and think, they only put the rules in there because they're trying to kill my fun? Bunch of stupid Home Depot people, bunch of stupid Lowe's people putting rules in there. How am I supposed to have fun with my chainsaw if I got to adhere to the rules? Why can't I start it on the edge of a stage and risk dropping it and off comes their leg? Why can't I enjoy that? Why can't I start it up in the middle of a room? You mean to tell me there's rules associated with the chainsaw? Of course there's rules associated with the chainsaw. Because there's a lot of people that went out to cut down a tree with the chainsaw and ended up in an emergency room with one less appendage. I don't think that Home Depot or Lowe's or anybody else hates me just because of the fact that there's rules that come attached. So why do we think that God is out to get us? Why do we think that God is out to kill our fun? Why do we think that God is trying to do that when it comes to the guardrails that he gives us when it comes to sex? You know why we think it? The reason we think it is because Satan is amazing at what he does. And he lies to you. And he twists stuff that's true. He tells you that God gives you rules because he doesn't want you to enjoy. Well, the true part is God gives you some rules, but it's because he wants you to enjoy. Did you know I've read the Bible through many times, and here's what I've realized. Every single time God says don't, you could insert the words hurt yourself. Every single time God says don't, you should just say don't hurt yourself, and then read whatever it is that comes next. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself, because the chainsaw is powerful. Sex is powerful. I'm going to give you some parameters. Why? So you don't hurt yourself. Sure, I'm going to tell you it's not a good idea to have sex when you're 14 years old with a boy who's not going to be in your life 6 months from now. Don't hurt yourself. It's not a good idea to have sex with somebody you're not married to. I know it seems good. I know it feels good. I know it looks good, but don't hurt yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying? God gives us some parameters so that we don't hurt ourselves. And there are people out there, and I know how people are. They're like, oh, I knew the pastor was going to say that. I knew he was going to say it. Again, that is Satan lying to you. God wants you to have sex, and he wants you to enjoy sex. He wants it to be the best thing you could ever imagine. But don't you go hurting yourself. Because if I were to walk around this room at either one of our locations and ask you about the most painful thing that's ever happened in your life, I guarantee you about 70% of it would have to do with something that went wrong when it comes to sexuality. The most shame, the most guilt, the most pain. There's people that are in this room, it's not even guilt because you did something, it's pain because somebody did something to you. Matter of fact, people have made it sound like there's a zillion rules when it comes to sex. There's not. Matter of fact, those of you that like Twitter, it used to be 140 characters. Now, amazing. They bumped it up to 280 characters on Twitter, but they still don't let you edit, and I'm not bitter. But watch this. It says this in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. This is the only rule. A man and a woman leave their father and their mother. Some of you say leave. Leave. A man and a woman leave their father and mother, come together before God to become a new family under the covenant of marriage, and the two then become one flesh. Do you know what a modern day translation of "and the two become one flesh" means? Say yes or no. I don't believe you. Come together before God to become a new family under the covenant of marriage, and then do what you want to do with the two of you. Don't let nobody else in the club. Don't go adventuring out into anybody else's club. I have a very specific club for the two of you, and the two of you get to figure this thing out together for the rest of your life. And people say, you got to try it before you buy it. No, you don't. Because can I tell you what? Okay, say on night one, you don't have a clue what you're doing. You got a lifetime to figure it out. You got a lifetime to figure it out. I know that this is odd. I know that it feels weird. I always love relationship series because there's always this hilarious tension in the room, and it's so fun. I just enjoy it, to be honest. Sometimes I want to just stand here and enjoy the moment. Let me show you this. Sex drive is good, but letting sex drive is not. Sex drive is, did you know who gave you that? God. Blow your mind. Sex drive is good, letting sex drive is not. Did you know that if God gives you a desire, there's always a righteous fulfillment of that desire? Say yes. Because even if you didn't know, I told you, so now you do. So you're not lying. You're not lying whenever you say that. For every desire that God gives you, there is a righteous fulfillment of it. The problem is our culture's approach to sex has been this. If it feels good, do it. No restraints. It's just a hookup. It's not that big a deal. Nobody will ever know. I've even seen stuff in articles where it says it'll make your marriage stronger if you go out and experiment with somebody else first. It'll make you appreciate your spouse at a higher level. It's not, nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gotta find out. It's not gonna hurt nobody else. Do whatever you wanna do. Trust your instincts. Follow your heart. How stupid can you get? Follow your heart. If you follow your heart and trust your instincts when it comes to sexuality, it's only a matter of time before you either end up in prison or you ruin your marriage. Or you get involved in a relationship that you are so going to regret that it will one day affect your marriage. Isn't it crazy to me that we tell people trust your instincts, follow your heart, do whatever you want to do, which is in essence, I don't believe there is a God. As a result, we're all just animals anyway, so we should go out and enjoy the people, the animals that God has given us. But then in the same breath, we are upset whenever people actually take our advice. We're upset when people take our advice to go out and follow your heart and trust your instincts. Why do you think that Nassar guy has just been basically given a death sentence by going to prison for the next 300 years for molesting all those gymnasts with the United States gymnastics team? If we're all just animals, he did nothing wrong. But we are appalled whenever people do it. And even those of us who don't believe in God are appalled when people do it because on the inside, we know that that is not the best way to go. Trust your instincts and follow your heart is ridiculous. The reality is there's a lot of times there's a lot of people that are allowing their desires to make their decisions. And if your desires are making your decisions, that's not good. Look to somebody and say, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. You're going to be 500 pounds because if your desires affect your decisions, every time you see a cupcake, you're going to be eating one. Aren't you? Every single time the alarm clock goes off, you're going to turn it off. Don't let your desires affect. You better be careful. Don't allow your desires to dictate your decisions. You're going to go to jail. You're going to hurt some people. You're going to ruin something good that you currently have or ruin something good that you could one day possess. In 1492, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, he found pineapples. It's hilarious. They didn't have any pineapples in Europe, apparently, so Columbus, he found them whenever he came to the United States. And he called them a pineapple because they said it looks just like a pine cone. This is true. It looks just like a pine cone, but it's juicy like an apple. So we call it a pineapple because an apple cone doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna call it a pineapple, and he brings them back. And when he brings them back to Europe, people were infatuated with the pineapple. They were so infatuated with them and they were so hard to get, rich people were buying them. You know how much they were paying? If you adjust the number they paid in yesterday's dollars to dollars today, them jokers were paying $8,000 for a pineapple. I like pineapple, but I ain't spending $8 on no pineapple, much less $8,000. So you know what they would do with them? When you pay $8,000 for something, do you eat it? No. So they were putting them up in their house. And I'm gonna have some people over to my house to watch the Super Bowl tonight. You know what they would do? Hold on. I'm gonna have some people over to my house to watch the Eagles win tonight. And you know what they would do? They would have people come over and they would have viewing parties and they would all sit down and look at the pineapple. And eventually, you know what would happen to the pineapple? Eventually it would rot and the pineapple would go away. Nothing about the pineapple has changed. The only thing that's changed about the pineapple is people's perception of it, people's attitude towards it. Same exact thing is true with sex, sexuality. The gift that God has given us is extraordinary. The gift that he's given, in my personal opinion, if I rank all the gifts, it's right up there near the top. Don't be looking at me and judging me either. The problem is, now a pineapple is just easy come, easy go. I mean, you wouldn't care if I pulled that chainsaw out and cut this pineapple in half. Nothing's gone from your life. When sex is just easy come, easy go, you won't appreciate it any more than we appreciate the pineapple. It'll just be another thing. But as God designed it, sex is to take place between one man and one woman for life. For life. You get to figure it out. You get to learn along the way. You get to enjoy each other. As God would have it, there's no competing images in your mind. There's no comparisons. You're not worried, what's the other person thinking? Who did this? Who did that? I could go on and on and on, but we could delve into the inappropriate pretty fast. There's no comparisons in people's minds. It's no wonder, right, that sexuality isn't as satisfying as it could have been and as it should have been. It's no wonder that it has become what it is that we've made it, because we haven't cherished the gift. We're surrounded by water, but there's nothing to drink. We're surrounded by water. We're in the middle of the ocean. I mean, the options are abundant. Sexuality is everywhere. You can't even go to Publix and go through the line without seeing a half-naked person. What do? Did you hear what they were saying to Moses? Moses, we're thirsty. We don't got nothing to drink. We need some help. We need you to do something. Watch what happens. It says in Exodus chapter 15, verse 25, so Moses, he cried out to the Lord for help. Isn't that sometimes the best advice, by the way? To just cry out to the Lord for help. So Moses cried out to the Lord for help, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He says, if you go in and read, he says, I want you to look at that tree. And he tells him to look at the tree, and Moses goes up to the tree, and when he goes to the tree, he sees a piece of wood. Moses picks up the piece of wood, and he threw it into the water, and this made the water good to drink. Watch this. It was there at Marah that the Lord set before them the following decree as a standard to test their faithfulness to him. He said, if you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, if you will swipe right on God's plan for your life, obeying his commands and keeping his decrees, then I will not make you suffer any of the diseases that I sent on the Egyptians. Watch this. For I am the Lord who heals you. I am the Lord who heals you, he says. He says, if you will swipe right on God's course of action for your life, you will live right in the sight of God. You will cherish the gift that God has given you, whether you're single, married, divorced, no matter who you are. If you will cherish the gift that he has given us, he will heal you. Now, when he told Moses, this is amazing. When he tells Moses to look at the tree and he walks up to the tree and he sees a piece of wood, it was an illusion. He was picturing for Moses something that we would be able to see, because we're not called to look at a tree to turn our bitter circumstances into something that is joyful. What we are called to look at is not a tree with fruit on it. When we're looking for a piece of wood, we're called to look at a tree upon which Jesus hung on a cross. And Jesus is saying to you, if you will look at me hanging up on a tree, then I will take the bitterness that is existing in your life because of past decisions. I will take the bitterness, the shame, the guilt, the pain, the agony, the hurt, whatever the case may be, I will take it. And when you look at me lifted up on a tree, what will happen is I will change you from the inside out, because not your good effort, not your good works, not your ability to follow the rules, but it's because of me, I will heal you. I can give you a brand new start. I can give you a brand new future. I can erase the pain from your past. I can erase the sin that's been eating you alive for days or weeks or months or years. I can remove all of that and make all things new. And I'm willing to do it right here and right now, because I am the Lord who heals you. That's what he's saying. So remember what I told you. I said the goal today is not to make you feel bad for your past, because if you're old enough and you've been around long enough, I bet there's some painful stuff that exists in your heart. The goal today is not to bring it up and just leave it there. The goal is to bring it up and let you know that from this day forward, it doesn't have to be that way any longer. The goal is to let you know that God can erase what Satan meant for evil. God can use for good in your life. God can change you from the inside out. He can mold you and shape you and make you into a brand new person. He can do it right here, right now. Maybe you're here today at one of our locations. The greatest need that you have is not just to be made new from some of the sin in your past in the context of sexuality. Maybe the greatest need that you have is just to put your trust in Jesus for the very first time. Maybe the greatest need that you have is to turn from your own way of living and say, Lord, the best way I know how, I want to do it your way. If you're willing to die on the cross for my sin, if you're willing to be buried in the ground, if you're willing to be risen from the dead so that I could be forgiven, then sign me up. That's what I need. That's what I desired. That's what I want. For me, that day came on April the 11th of 1996 when I exchanged what was religious living, and I exchanged that for a relationship with God through the person of Jesus. And if that's your desire today at either one of our locations, he can make that exchange happen for you as well. Your sin will be placed on Jesus, and the goodness of Jesus will be placed on you. You can walk out of this room differently than the way that you walked in, not because you're an amazing person, but because we serve an amazing God. So if you would, bow your head and close your eyes all over this room today.